Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the world of a tiny parasite with a very long name that can cause some very big problems, Cyclospora cayetanensis.
So picture this. You're doing everything right. Eating clean, enjoying fresh salads and fruits. Then, about a week later, you get hit with this awful, relentless sickness that just will not quit. What if the real source of the problem was hiding right there on the very food you thought was keeping you healthy?
All right, let's get into it. The culprit in this whole scenario is a single-celled parasite. You can think of it like a microscopic stowaway that hitches a ride on our food, and believe me, it can have a huge impact.
So, let's meet our subject, Cyclospora cayetanensis. It's a type of protozoan, which is just a fancy word for a single-celled organism. But the key to understanding it is that long description, obligate intracellular endoparasite. Now, that sounds complicated, but it just means it has to live inside the cells of a host to survive. And its favorite place to set up shop? The cells that line our small intestine.
Okay, so where does this little guy fit in the grand scheme of things? Well, it belongs to the family Imeridae, and what's really interesting about this group is that they tend to be super picky about their hosts. So while other Cyclospora species might infect animals like primates or rodents, Cyclospora cayetanensis is the only one we know of that is adapted to infect humans.
Now, you might have heard of its more infamous cousin, Cryptosporidium, but there is a massive difference between them, and this is so important. When Cyclospora cayetanensis leaves a host, it's not actually infectious yet. It has to spend about a week or two out in the environment to mature, a process called sporulation. What that means is you basically can't catch it directly from another person. This isn't a typical stomach bug. You get it from contaminated food or water.
So how does this parasite make its way from the outside world into our gut? Well, it's a pretty fascinating trip. Let's trace its path by looking at its life cycle, which is kind of like a play in two acts. And this diagram from the CDC lays it out perfectly. Thinking of it as a two-act play is really the best way to get it. Act 1 happens outside the body, out in the environment. And Act 2? Well, that takes place inside a human host.
So Act 1, the most important event here is that maturation process, sporulation. A non-infectious oocyst gets passed into the environment. If the conditions are just right, warm, somewhere between 22 and 32 degrees Celsius, it spends the next week or two developing. Inside, it forms these little infectious packets. Only after that happens is it actually a threat to anyone.
Then comes Act 2. This starts the moment someone eats that mature oocyst, maybe on a raspberry or a piece of cilantro. Once it hits the small intestine, it's showtime. The oocyst bursts open, releasing the infectious sporozoites. They invade the intestinal cells and just start multiplying like crazy, using both asexual and sexual reproduction. They turn the gut into a factory, pumping out thousands of new, unsporulated oocysts that are then passed out, ready to start the whole cycle all over again.
Now, all of that microscopic chaos has a very real and very unpleasant impact on the person who's hosting it. So what does it actually feel like when your body becomes the stage for this parasite's drama?
About a week after infection, the illness, which is called cyclosporiasis, kicks in. The main symptom, its hallmark, is just relentless watery diarrhea. But on top of that, you've got crushing fatigue, no appetite, bloating, and cramping. And here's the kicker. If you don't get treatment, this isn't a 24-hour thing. It can last for over 2 months, often in a frustrating cycle where you start to feel better for a few days, and then, bam, it all comes roaring back.
And how bad it gets really depends on the person. In someone with a healthy immune system, it's miserable and it lasts a long time, but it usually goes away on its own eventually. But for someone who's immunocompromised, like a person with HIV or AIDS, it's a whole different ballgame. It can become a chronic, severe disease that lasts for months and can lead to really serious complications. Given how severe and long-lasting this illness can be, getting the right diagnosis is absolutely critical. But how do you find an invader that's completely invisible to the naked eye? Well, it's time to play detective.
These two images really show the whole transformation. On the left, that's the unsporulated oocyst, the one passed from a host. It's harmless at this stage. But look at the one on the right. After a week or two out in the world, you can clearly see the 2 sporocysts have formed inside. That's the mature infectious stage. That's the one you worry about.
And just to give you a sense of scale, these things are only about 8 to 10 micrometers across. To put that in perspective, that's roughly twice the size of a Cryptosporidium oocyst. And believe it or not, that size difference is a huge clue for the lab techs peering through a microscope.
Thankfully, our methods for catching this culprit have gotten way better over the years. Old-school techniques like stains and wet mounts can work, but they're a little hit or miss. A real game changer was discovering that the oocysts actually glow a brilliant blue or green under UV light. It makes them just pop. But today, the gold standard is PCR, a molecular test that is incredibly sensitive because it detects the parasite's actual DNA.
And here's some really good news. Once it's diagnosed, it is treatable. A course of the antibiotic combination trimethoprim sulfamethoxyl, you'll probably hear it called cotrimoxazole, is highly effective at clearing the infection.
So if we can diagnose it and we can treat it, how do we prevent it? Well, this brings us to what might be the biggest hurdle of all, our modern global food supply chain.
You see, Cyclospora cayetanensis is common in many tropical and subtropical regions. For a long time, in places like the Netherlands, it was almost always seen as a traveler's disease. But that all started to change in the 1990s. We started seeing large outbreaks in the US, Canada, and Europe that were repeatedly traced back to imported fresh produce, things like raspberries from Guatemala, cilantro from Mexico, and all sorts of prepackaged salad mixes.
So why these foods? Well, it turns out the oocysts are incredibly sticky. And the complex surfaces of things like raspberries with all their tiny hairs, or the little crevices in leafy greens, they create perfect hiding spots. The oocysts can latch on so tightly that simply rinsing the food under the tap often isn't enough to wash them all off. And all of this leaves us with a critical public health question. We all love having access to fresh produce from all over the world all year round. But as our food travels farther and the supply chain gets more complex, how do we protect ourselves from these invisible little passengers hitching a ride on our dinner plate? This information was all compiled using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dive deeper, you can find a detailed list of our sources in the linked Notebook LM document in the description below.
If you found this explainer informative and you want to see more deep dives just like this one, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to let us know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for watching.